Hi there. Welcome back to the Whole Bucket. And today's Zebra Talk, all about motivation and really what motivates you specifically. Or in this case, me specifically. Let's turn to today's page. Oh, by the way, this was last week's page, and I did end up adding some stuff. Decided I need to write stuff down too. So I wrote down assess spoons often. I'm going to do it at least 3 times a day. Remember that you can overspend, lose, drop, and even steal your own spoons. Don't do that. So I wrote down a couple of things. So today is all about motivation and what motivates you and how you spend your spoons. The driving forces behind how you wish to spend your spoons, or how you choose to spend your spoons. Apparently, words are a problem today. So, let's see what we come up with for today. I have some stuff written down. The very first one says, "Do you want to stay as healthy as you can?" Well, that sounds silly. Of course, everybody does. Well, not true. Staying as healthy as you can is not something that motivates everybody. And people might have a hard time telling you, no, I don't care about that. But it is true. Some people are not really motivated by stuff like that. What else do I have? Do you want to learn new things? Kids, pets, career, travel. List the driving forces behind your spoon allotment choices. I'm going to start today's Zentangle stuff while I talk about that. And then we'll start writing, or I'll start writing, or you start writing right away. Or, whatever, however you're using this, this practice. Today's Zentangle thing is going to be a little bit weird because I want to show more about shadowing. And I just took out 1 yellow, 2 green pencils, charcoal pencils, right? I have my 1 regular pencil here. I don't know if I'm going to use it. And I have my Bianyo drawing pen or sketch liner. And I got it in a 0.2 today. That means it's a really fine point. It's going to give me a really thin line. Doesn't matter. Do this in pencil. Big fat pencil if that's what you got. Do it in a ballpoint pen if that's what you got. Do it in color crayon if that's what you got. Doesn't matter. Okay. So I'm going to start with a squiggle line and aura it with another squiggle line, and that is the whole technique needed for today. Every single thing that I do today until we get to the shading part is this in one form or another. So I made 1 squiggle, and then off of this line I'm going to make a squiggle on each side. So I'm going to make a squiggle here, a bit more hook than squiggle, doesn't matter. Over on this side I'll make something that's actually more of a squiggle. If you're starting to recall this pattern from before, you might remember that I said I'm not good at this pattern. I'm not good at this at all. Some people make these look so cool, and I fail at it. Anyways, the next step is to make another aura to the first line, but skipping over the offshoot squiggles that we did. There we go. Now we're going to do an offshoot squiggle over that, off of that line. And one of the things I want to be sure to do is overlap some of my stuff. So I'm going to take this offshoot squiggle over that offshoot squiggle and just skip a space, right? Skip over it, run up to it, jump across, and then finish it. This side I don't think I'm going to do that because I'm just not feeling it. I think this offshoot is going to be way down here. There. Now you do another full length aura of the first and second lines. All right, I'm going to keep doing some of this. You do the whole thing in the same way. You let them join up wherever they're going to join up. You do your offshoots however you want to do your offshoots. There's no science here. It's all whatever you think or feel. Do your lines slowly, right? Watch where your pen is going. Don't stress if you don't like the way it looks right now because we're going to make some changes and it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Just keep going. Okay. All right. So today's zebra talk is what motivates you. The very first thing I wrote down is, do you want to stay as healthy as you can? And like I said, no, that's not always you might think it's always a yes. Of course it's a yes, but it's not always for everyone. But the reason it came out first is because for me, it's number one on my motivation list. Okay, wait. Let's be honest. I want it to be number one on my motivation list. I don't know that it actually is. Because when it comes right down to it, I don't operate my day in a way that is the most healthy. So if it was really number one on my list, like I want it to be, I would be making some different choices with my spoons and my life in general. So I'm going to have to think about that. I did another aura without doing an offshoot. Oh, shoot. So I want health to be more of a motivator in my life. I want to pay more attention to how I'm feeling and how to make the most out of my energy. Right now it's just a little too chaotic and it's slipping away a lot faster than I want it to. I don't know how to get back what keeps slipping away. I don't even know if that's possible. But I mean, I'll have more zebra talks and I'll let you know if I find anything. And if you know anything, well, leave it in the comments. Maybe it's something I haven't tried yet, or maybe it's something I don't know about yet, or maybe it's something somebody else needs. Anyway. So, yes, I want to stay as healthy as I can. That sort of, I don't know how to describe that because these other things are motivators, right? That I don't know that should be a motivator. But when you're dealing with a chronic health issue, it kind of has to be a motivator, doesn't it? You have to care about it. If you don't, find your way to caring about it. Because all these other things are going to be a moot point. It has to be the underlying thing. Okay, well, that doesn't have to be. But if you don't care about your health, understand that all of this other stuff is, you're not going to get what you want. Okay. Preachy, preachy. Quit being such a mom. Beyond wanting the best health that I can muster, what's a motivator for me? And I originally only wrote down one, and then I couldn't find my way to any others. So my one that I wrote down was art. It is clearly my motivator. If I could sit in this studio 24/7 and just create stuff, I'd be happy as a clam. Mostly. So much so that it was a struggle to think of other things. I'm going to do something a little bit different on this aura, so I'm just going to say it quick instead of moving on. I'm going to, instead of having this one join up with the others, I'm going to have this one do its own flip out. Like that. I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Okay, so I couldn't think of any other motivators at first. Art is what I would do all the time if that was allowed. And I would still have to care about health because I can't sit in this studio and function if I can't sit. Right? And I have to care about other stuff too anyway, because you can't just sit here. Even if I could sit that much, I can't just sit here, because then I will lose the ability to sit here. So, you know, diversity is a good thing. I'm going to leave this just the way it is. I think. No, I'm not. I'm going to do a couple more with the, I'm going to do a couple more where the ends separate and just make them shorter. So when I thought about it further, a few more motivators came up for me. One of them is travel. Now, right now, I am not healthy enough to travel across town, let alone anywhere else. But I would love to travel internationally, and I don't think I ever will. I don't see getting enough energy back to ever be able to do that, and I am quite sad about that. The loss of that, along with the loss of being able to go to college, are kind of tough for me still, because I wanted to, at retirement age, which disability made me retire quite early, but at this point of my life, I wanted to be able to go to college and do art. And I don't think I'll get to do the college thing. Now, with that said, college is something that you can do from your own home now. It's not the same, but it is learning, and it can still be valuable, right? If I could get enough energy to maintain life and continue to do art, I might think about doing online college courses. Right now, that's not a reality either. The other thing is, if I get to that point, I could also do online learning about other places in the world. Again, not a reality, but I could get there, possibly. I don't know that that's true, but I don't know that it's not. So, art, number one, travel and college, probably not ever going to happen in my life, but the idea that they maybe could is kind of a motivator. So with those things in mind, what I wrote down after that was learning, like taking real classes online, if I get to that point or I'm able to do that. Continuing learning online in the way that I already do. And that is when I'm doing my art, I put other artists on. Or when I'm creating my journals, I put on music and meditations that are related to that journal so that my headspace is there. I consider that a little bit of learning and a little bit of travel, depending on what I'm creating. For instance, I have an awful lot of Norwegian folk music that I've been listening to lately. And I'm creating a Valkyrie journal while I listen to that particular set of music. I do very like things. I do very similar things whenever I'm creating a journal. I put on other artists that are inspirational to me or are showing some things I either want to learn, figure out, or remember. And then I put on things that make my brain space correct for that aesthetic. I consider those things learning. I also do Zentangle, and I continue to learn these patterns. I also do mind games, so I try to keep my mind active. That's not necessarily learning, but it at least makes you a little bit more receptive to things that you try to learn. I just started maybe learning to speak Norwegian. I don't know that that's going to happen. I'm not good at learning other languages, never have been. I might give it a try. But there's a lot of things on YouTube that I learn all the time. You can learn almost anything on YouTube. Right? So if my spoon inventory allows for space in my time to learn, I might add more things, even if it's on an online basis. Travel goes the same way, is that I can learn about all kinds of places. I can learn all kinds of things about all kinds of places online. I need to look at where. And I need to look at more in depth at how and where. So taking master classes, Skillshare, online courses through a community college. There's all kinds of different ways to learn, right? Those take financial commitment, where YouTube doesn't necessarily, but that would be the next step, is to do some of those things that might take a financial commitment. Not going to financially commit to anything if I am clearly not in a place where spoons are allowed or not allowed for that, if you know what I'm saying. If I don't have spoon inventory for that activity, I'm not going to pay money for that activity. That would just be silly. And then the very last thing that motivates me, for all of the other things, I think that one of my biggest driving factors in life is curiosity. I just want to know stuff. I am ridiculously nosy. I will ask people the most personal questions ever, and then I'm like, wow, you probably shouldn't ask that. But I just want to know, like, what's going on in your head? What's going on with you? How did you make that decision? How are you dealing with that really hard thing? How are you finding your way through navigating that choice in your life? And I realize I'm out of line asking certain questions, but people can just tell me you're being out of line. But generally they don't. Generally they just tell me. Okay, well, I like to learn. Curiosity makes me want to stay alive as long as I can, as well as I can, because at the same time I would tell you that I was born about 500 years too late. I would also like to stay alive for another 500 years because I really just want to know where things are going to go. So curiosity, I think, is the driving force behind everything I do. What happens if I cook this food this way? What happens if I do it that way? What happens if I feed my kitties this treat? I don't know. Whatever. Let's do some shading. I'm going to start with the darkest green. And I'm going to go along the very first offshoot. And the very first offshoot is going to have darker spots. It's going to cast a darker spot on the things that it goes over. So this one goes over those lines and those lines. This one only goes over those two. This one goes over a whole bunch. And I'm just putting a little dark green line on both sides. Now I'll go up the other side and do the same thing. This offshoot, this offshoot, and this offshoot. I'm also going to put a line up at the top. I don't know why I didn't go all the way across. Now I'm going to grab one of my blending stumps. I think I will grab the little tiny one, the tiniest tiny one, so that I can stay in these lines better. But I'm just going to soften the line up a bit. I'm not trying to drag that color too terribly far. In fact, if you've watched my art or last week or anything I've ever done, artistically speaking, you'll have heard me say I'm heavy-handed. Same is true here. I put on too much green and I'm dragging it too far. Do less and drag it not as far. And then if you want it more like what I have, right, you can always build, but you can't take away. This is like over-salting the pasta water. I have over-salted the pasta water, guys. If you are doing your shading with a Q-tip, like I mentioned last week, cut it with the scissors so it's pointier and thinner. If you need to stay in little lines like this. Totally works. You might say to yourself, if it totally works, why do you have the toys? Legitimate question, right? I just admitted that I'm nosy. You can be nosy too. Maybe you're like, okay, smarty pants, well, if I don't need the toys, why are you showing me all the toys? Because I like toys. Nothing more to it than that. I just like presents and I like getting the new things, and I order the things whenever I can afford them and I get new things. That's why I have that back there. See that? Massive amounts of paper. I have so many journals I want to make. So many. What am I even going to do with them all? My Etsy store is not taking off. There are journals in it that need homes. If you need a birth month journal, right now there are some birth month journals. Go buy one. No, just kidding. Buy one if you want one. But otherwise, I'm just saying my Etsy store is not taking off, which I've heard from an awful lot of people. And there's some bad things going on there too. But I'm going to have to figure out what to do with all these journals because, man, I got a lot of journals to make and I just want to keep making them. Yep. And I'm gonna. So there. All right. You know what? I'm going to add, now I'm going to take the dark pencil again and add, that's not the dark one. Silly girl. I'm going to take the dark green pencil and add a tiny bit to the tips of the blades of grass. I'm going to call these blades of grass. Using these charcoal pencils really, really kind of bugs me because it's got that chalkboardy kind of feel to it. Oh, it gives me the shivers every time. Oops, I forgot one. Let's see if there's enough green on there to do it. Sort of. Yeah, so that's the honest truth of the matter is you don't need these toys. Why do I have the toys if you don't need them? Because I love toys. Because art is my thing and I want to try every new pencil and every new marker and every new piece of paper and just everything. I'm kind of glad that I can't afford all the things, both financially and time-wise, right? Like, I can't do more than I can do. So some things it doesn't even pay for me to get financially involved with, but how cool would it be to have a Cricut? Or how cool would it be to have a laser cutter? Or how cool would it be to have even just a die cut machine and a bunch of dies and the things you can cut out, the things I see people do? Oh, just so much fun. Don't need those things. But I'm telling you, I would fall for them every time. Okay, so here's an overlap that I missed, right? Can't forget to do these overlaps. So again, right at the spots where it goes under, you're going to want to put a little thingy, a little dot of color, and smudge it. Okay. I missed this blade of grass tip and this blade of grass tip. Okay, I'm going to call that good right there. So now I'm going to use another green. And just like last week, I'm making a different green just inside the shading of the color I just did. I am laying down way too much color again. I can already see I'm doing it. I don't know how to stop myself. If you are following along, do this with a much lighter hand than what I'm doing. Okay. I'm going to get out a bigger blender because we have more space to move around now, but not a ton. So I'm just going to get the next size up. Don't think for a minute that I am some professional artist or professional art teacher or anything like that. If you are doing this along with me, you are an amateur being shown some stuff by a co-amateur. If you find that you like doing this stuff and you want to know more about what you can do and further ideas, you should definitely take a look on YouTube at some other folks that do this same kind of stuff, because there are some seriously talented people out there. And I'm talking about talent in the art department and in the teaching department. So worth a peek, and there are resources out there if you want something better than what we're doing here. Now, in every place that I'm still seeing Oops, I forgot some of the dark in here, didn't I? In every place where I am still seeing whitish, right, I'm going to take this yellow color. And this is now going to be my lightest grass color. And there's actually quite a bit of that. A touch there, a touch there, there. Okay, now let's blend that out and see what happens. This is the end of our art project for today, and then I'm just going to go and fill in to reiterate those things that I mentioned are motivators for me. I hope that the things that I said are helping you think of what are your own personal motivators. Tell me in the comments, right? Tell me, what are your motivators? Help me think of more stuff and more direction. What are your motivators? All right, we're going to leave that right there, and let me I'll use today's pen for this. There's today's weed growth. Something. I'm going to add a little green right here to the middle because how empty it is really bugging me. How's that? Better. I like that better. Okay. All right, so let's recap quickly. Motivations. First and foremost, my very, very base meditation. Feel and function as good / well, because I'm not sure which one works, and I think I need both of those, one for each word. As possible. I wish to feel and function as good as possible, as well as possible, for as long as possible. So that should be, it is not always my first motivation for how I spend my spoons. I should spend my spoons first and foremost on myself and making sure that I am taken care of so that all other things are possible. Whatever my other things are going to be, they need that first. Then my other things. No, you know what? I'm going to flip. The very last thing that I mentioned was the curiosity, and I'm going to flip my list and put that next, because in order for anything else to happen, this should be the first place I spend my spoons. Minimal function, self-care first, minimal responsibility function next. Beyond that, responsibility function and life enrichment in equal measure. If responsibility is the only thing that you have left, what good is it? What's the point? Right? There are certain responsibilities in life that can wait a little bit. Remember that personal fulfillment is crucial. There's no point. Whatever. Another topic. We'll get into that a different day. But right now, today, curiosity is going to be next on my list because curiosity is a really big motivator for what comes next. I'm going to add another one because art is going to be on my list, but it's really not art. It's any creative expression. So I'm going to write creative expression. And let me get it down. And I'll explain the difference or why I'm putting it different. So the reason I'm saying creative expression instead of art is because sometimes I can't do very much in my studio. And then I have sets of stuff that I can do if I am bedridden. And that's fine too. But those aren't the only things I can do to meet the need of art or creation. I like solving puzzles, or I think that one of the skills that I have in life is that I'm extremely resourceful. Like if there is a problem in our life that needs solving and we don't have what would typically solve the problem, I will figure out a way to make things work. And I like doing that. So it's creativity in any sort of realm. Any sort of realm that requires creative thought and a process. And I don't even always have to get to the end product, which is kind of a bummer because it leaves me with a lot of projects that don't get done. But I'm getting better about that one. Okay, so I'm going to put creative expression next because it doesn't have to just be in this studio, and it doesn't have to just be drawing and paint and glue, right? So then under creative expression and curiosity, I will make a list of what those things actually are for the most part. So art now will come in. And creative expression might come out in other places, but being in the studio or creating pieces for the studio from my bed are top of the list of creative outlet choices. Then learning. I think I'll put learning next because I can do that from my home if I can get healthy enough to be able to do it. And I think I'll put travel last. Because I don't think it's ever going to happen. But it's on a motivation wish list. Is there such a thing? I think I just decided that there is. My wish for travel motivates me to some degree or another. All right, that is it for me, for my motivations. At a different point in my life, they would have looked very different from this. The learning, the travel, and the art might have been still on there, but they would have been way down the list. The health might have been way still on there, but it would have been way up the list because there would have been a big chunk in the middle. Motivations. My kids, I had motivations that regarded them. My world, when I was able to do more, I had motivations that were, involved my community and neighborhood and just all kinds of things. So it might have looked very different and it might have been a bigger list. Right now it's becoming concise and I'm happy with that, and that's what I wanted for this point in my life. And one of the things that I wanted for my life was this one right here, And I'm doing the thing. I'm doing the thing. Count myself stupid amounts of lucky and blessed. Lucky. I'm super lucky to be able to have this studio and be able to do the things that I do, making my journals as much as I do. Although I don't know what I'm going to do with them all. We'll find out. I'm sure I'll come up with something. A few of my outlets for selling them have fallen through. That's why I'm trying to find a new one, and it's on my mind lately a lot. So, yeah. Sorry about that. It's on my brain. Anyway, there's our art piece for today. Some more blending and why I like having the colors, and you may or may not want to have them as well, and my motivations. Thank you for tuning in this week, and we will come back again next week. Wait, I've been doing previews lately. What's next week? What makes you happy? Oh, what makes you happy? That's different than motivations. Start thinking about what makes you happy. All right, see you next week. Bye.